All right. So this morning, though, I'd like to ask us all to consider a question. Why prioritize spiritual matters when there are so many demands on our time, energy, and money? Why use our precious time to take spiritual classes when 1/3 of the time we'll be hearing things we already know, and 1/3 of the time we'll either be struggling to comprehend or resisting ideas that are annoyingly different from the ones we've always thought were right? Of the remaining 1/3, 2/3 will probably be spent judging yourself, the teacher, or your fellow students. But that other 1/3 of 1/3, 1/9 of the total class, perhaps, well, maybe that's the part that holds the possibility of magic. What magic, you might ask? Revelation. Revelation is the magic. I'm not talking about that scary book at the end of the Bible. No, I mean that aha moment when you suddenly receive a life-changing insight or clarity on a spiritual question that has clouded your faith for ages, or awareness of the presence of God that is so palpable it wipes away your doubt, or a moment of intimate connection with the group that makes oneness with all people a felt reality. As Todd mentioned, some of you are taking the Eye of the Storm class right now. And some of us will be joining Reverend Todd for Bible Metaphysics in February. But did you know that a typical church class, about 1/3 of the participants drop out after the second week? It's not surprising, really. Thank God, after 20 years, I no longer take that personally. We human beings have a downright alarming habit of dropping out before the magic happens. We just love our comfort zones. We don't seem to have a very high tolerance for living outside of it. When we first find unity, for example, we're ecstatic. Here at last are my people. Here at last are principles that make sense to me. Here at last, I can feel the love and the inclusivity and the hugs. I'm home. Until someone you thought you could trust turns out to be human after all. Or a board member asks you to serve or support. Or the minister stops preaching and goes to meddling, as my mentor used to say. Oh, the honeymoon is over. Now what? When we make the decision to prioritize our spiritual nourishment, whether that be a decision to take a class or tithe or begin a meditation practice, it's because our souls are calling us to heal. Are you saying there's something wrong with me, you might ask? I know I want to grow, but heal? Well, you know that person that let you down? That message that challenged one of your long-held beliefs, habits, and pressed your buttons? Or that pushy team leader who asked you to start giving back? Well, see, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's not comfortable, but the thing is, the decision to stay and face the dragon within sets universal life force energy into motion. And what is universal life force energy? Why, love, of course. Divine love, the greatest power there is. In the early days of our unity experience, we may see great results. And then Not so much. Life seems to return to its normal, uh, combination of problems and irritations. But if we persist and consistently place our time and energy behind the things that nurture us spiritually, the love life force around us and in us will become stronger and stronger. And day by day, action by action, we will become powerful magnets, drawing toward ourselves mystical revelation, communication direct from divine mind, a constant flow of divine ideas, insight and instruction on how to break through our resistance and stubbornness, divine direction on how to better love ourselves and everyone else, awareness that reveals the truth about us and our purpose, all healing, all growth, every form of prosperity flow from our willingness to hear and follow the voice of the divine within us. Don't worry, you'll recognize this voice. It rarely offers a quick fix, but it does offer lasting change. It calls us to actions that are simple, but usually not easy. While it speaks to our personal healing, it offers wisdom that nurtures everyone around us. It is not big on drama. Some of you may have heard of Masaru Emoto. He is the Japanese doctor and scientist who became intrigued by the potential effect of love on water. Between 1914 and 1917, he ran experiments that are well documented in his beautiful books, The Hidden Messages in Water. He reasoned that if love had a positive effect on water, human beings, being 80 to 85% water, would have a far better chance to heal in the presence of love. In short, he filled lots of glasses with plain old tap water. On half of these glasses, he affixed a label containing words of love and encouragement like, "You are beautiful. I am so grateful for you. I love you." On the other half, he placed labels containing mean, critical words like, "You are ugly. I hate you. You make me sick." Then he froze the glasses of water. Through the use of a powerful microscope in a very cold room, Emoto examined the frozen crystals formed in each glass. The ones created by the water that had been labeled with loving words or exposed to classical music, interestingly enough, were brilliant, complex, colorful, and symmetrical, like perfect snowflakes. In contrast, the crystals formed by water in the glasses labeled with mean, critical words and exposed to heavy metal music formed crystals that were incomplete, colorless, asymmetrical, and full of holes and breaks. The principle seems clear. Love, the universal life force, causes every living thing to prosper, and the absence of love causes everything to wither. So, if you're anything like me, you have wondered about this thing called love. What does authentic love look like and feel like? The word is bandied around so much, I find it almost useless. The universe, hearing my heartfelt plea for understanding, led me to another amazing story. The one about the Hawaiian psychiatrist named Dr. Klein, who cured every patient in the criminally insane ward of the Hawaii State Hospital. Word of this amazing phenomenon spread wide, and many were curious about it, but there seemed to be very little actual data available until best-selling author and personal development guru, Dr. Joe Vitale, many of you have heard of him, I think, caught wind of it and decided to call Dr. Len on the phone and talk to him in person about it. Joe found that Dr. Len is a master teacher of the ancient Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono, which is said to clear from the mind unconsciously accepted beliefs, thoughts, and memories that limit one's power and prosperity. Dr. Len explained that he had worked on that ward for the criminally insane for 4 years. The ward, he said, was quite dangerous. Patients would regularly attack psychologists and staff who were so stressed out, they frequently called in sick and often quit after only a month or two on the job. Dr. Len never saw those patients face to face. Instead, he sat in his office and reviewed their files. While he read the case histories, he worked on himself. And as he worked on himself, his patients began to get better. After a few months, patients who had been shackled were well enough to walk free. Others who had been heavily sedated could be taken off their meds. And patients who had been given no chance whatever of ever leaving the hospital were being released. Not only that, Dr. Len told Joe, but the staff began to enjoy coming to work. Absenteeism and turnover nearly disappeared. We ended up with more staff than we needed because the patients were going home and all the staff members were showing up for work. Today, that ward of the hospital is closed. Then Dr. Joe asked Dr. Len the million-dollar question. What work were you doing on yourself that caused those people to change? And Dr. Len replied, I worked on healing that part of me that created them, he said. Of course, Joe did not understand. Dr. Len went on to explain that total responsibility for your life means that everything in your life, simply by virtue of the fact that it is in your life, is your responsibility. Everything and everyone you experience and don't like is there for you to heal. If you want to improve your life, he said, you have to heal your life. If you want to heal anyone else, even a mentally ill criminal, you do it by healing yourself. Joe thought, that's tough to swallow. Being responsible for what I say or do is one thing, but being responsible for what everyone in my life says or does is quite another. And so he asked Dr. Len what he meant by healing himself and how he went about it. What was he doing exactly while he read those patients' files? Len explained, the word Ho'oponopono means loving yourself. As I read about the patient's symptoms, thoughts would come to mind that showed me a similar characteristic in myself. Maybe not as extreme as the patient's, but in me nonetheless. Then I just kept going within to my heart of compassion and saying to myself, I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. That's it? Joe asked incredulously. That's it, Dr. Len replied. Since then, Joe says, he's practiced this technique a lot. Turns out that loving yourself is the greatest way to heal yourself. And as you heal yourself, you heal the world. Here's one of Joe's personal examples. One day, not long ago, someone sent me an email that upset me. In the past, I would have gone to work trying to control my emotional hot buttons or trying to reason with the person who sent the nasty message. Instead, I used Dr. Len's method. I sat quietly and without analyzing the situation at all, just repeated silently, I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. I wasn't saying it to anyone in particular. I was simply calling upon the spirit of love to heal that within me, which was creating the situation. Within an hour, I got another email from the same person, apologizing for his previous message and explaining that he was going through a very difficult time. I had taken no outward action at all. I hadn't even written him back. By sending love and compassion to myself, I somehow healed within me what was attracting my friend's anger. So that's it. In a nutshell, whenever you want to heal anything or heal anyone in your life, look inside for your unhealed places. Important message to me was that there was no need to analyze them or cast blame in any direction. Just send compassion and love to yourself. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. Was this how Jesus was able to heal people? Was he so centered in self-love that he became a magnet that drew forth the self-love within others? We've learned that like attracts like, haven't we? We all have this God self, this divine love within us, all of us, which I have to keep telling myself every day. It is the only force powerful enough to reveal and heal our wounds and stuck places. But the ego self must allow it. The ego self, that's the rub, isn't it? That's the self that prioritizes any and every material thing over spiritual practice, because it is all about conserving the past and trusting only what it can see, smell, and touch. It's the cynical self, the one that believes spiritual healing is not real. It's the part of us that is unteachable. It is the part of us that makes it hard for us to take responsibility for ourselves, much less anyone else, because it thinks our mistakes and shortcomings have made us unworthy. This is a lie. Reminds me of something that happened in my Tulsa church years ago. I started a Wednesday evening teen service called Wednesday Night Live. I created it because the teenagers were asking for an informal way to worship that had more meaning for them and much cooler music. One of the teens really took leadership, and together we put a lot of love and energy into that service, and for a while it was very popular. I'll never forget the night that same teen leader told me she could no longer participate because she had cheerleading practice on Wednesday evenings. Participation in the service almost immediately began to dwindle. Listen, we've all made decisions like this. In the world of ego, prioritizing cheerleading over worship seems completely normal. When we make the choice to come to church or a spiritual class or tithe or meditate, we send to ourselves, to God, and to the universe a giant, resounding yes to wholeness. This yes is what the universe has been waiting for. But the thing is, the universe understands actions better than words. Some years ago, I received an understanding so profound that to this day I call it revelation. It is this, that there is an edge in the center of my being, a fine edge between feeling and thought, being and doing, control and surrender. This is the edge I am meant to seek. It's called balance. I've come to understand that self-love has everything to do with balance. Do you remember the opening scene of Fiddler on the Roof? The fiddler is playing his song while teetering on the roof of his house. He is singing about the dilemma of dancing on the fine edge of life, about holding ourselves poised in delicate balance between the inner life and the outer life, so that we're ready to move whenever and in whatever direction Spirit leads us. Being Jewish, he says it's tradition that helps him keep his balance. For us, it is spiritual practice that helps us to stay in balance. We practice our faith when we come to church or class or read spiritual literature or welcome the stranger or visit the sick or give our time, talent, and treasure to worthwhile endeavors or to pray and meditate. The famous guru, Swami Vivekananda, says that this is the year of the American evolution. It's time, he says, to choose the golden rule over the rule of gold, to get past left and right and come front and center. If we are sincere about learning to love ourselves, if we want to help others do this too, if we want to experience abundance every day, our spiritual nourishment must be front and center every single day. On the edge, in the center of our being, balanced in spirit, mind, and body, revelation streams from the universe like it did to Dr. Emoto and Dr. Len, healing us by showing us how to love ourselves. When we do this, we get to notice as the love we are for ourselves brings out the love in everyone else. Now, it just so happens, one of those serendipitous things, that Dolphin was talking about a protest that's going to be happening in Ottawa. Is ongoing, I think, at this time. And it just so happens that today marks the opening of a season for nonviolence. SNV lasts for 64 days between the memorial anniversary of the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi on January 30th and Martin Luther King on April 4th. Here are a few quotes that explain the purpose of SNV. From Dr. King. Nonviolence is a powerful and just weapon which cuts without wounding and ennobles the one who wields it. It is a sword that heals. Its true value is that it helps us to see the enemy's point of view, to hear his questions and understand his assessment of us. For from this view, we may indeed see the basic weaknesses of our own condition. And if we are mature, we may learn and grow and profit from the wisdom of the brothers who we call the opposition. From Thich Nhat Hanh. The essence of nonviolence is love. Out of love and the willingness to act selflessly, strategies and techniques for creating a nonviolent world arise naturally. Nonviolence is not a dogma, it is a process. From Mahatma Gandhi. Nonviolence is not a garment to put on or off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being. It is the first article of my faith and the last article of my creed. And finally, from Dr. Lawrence Smith in a Quaker Book of Wisdom. We need faith to believe that by loving our enemy, we can eventually transform him into an ally. That even when nonviolence fails to achieve peace, it succeeds in curing hate. My prayer for this spiritual community is that we will all continue to do the work, to learn to love ourselves enough to make of our spiritual healing the highest priority in our lives. Because I believe Dr. Len's story. When we walk around as the presence of love, we heal everything in our path. So I say, let's not quit before the magic happens. Let's stay the course and help each other learn to love and trust ourselves. But you know what? We're all fiddlers on a roof, trying to keep our balance in this wild, wild world of ours. I love you all so much. And now let's take a moment to prepare for meditation. Deidre is going to sing a beautiful song for us.
This lovely song is by Daniel Namod. I don't need to know, because God knows. Whatever it may be, I don't need to know. God knows. When things go wrong, it's natural to wonder, what celestial rule did I break? When things go all right, it's logical to ponder, what credit can I take? But the truth is so much easier. I don't need a master plan. I can live here in this moment, because my life is in good hands. I don't need to know where the wind blows, because God knows. And I don't need to know what the future holds, because God knows. I need never know how pain ends or how my heart mends. I can just let go, because God knows.
I can just let go because God knows. Take a breath now. And as you exhale, release any concern or anxiety you may be carrying for this day. One more time. A good deep breath and let it all out. And then I invite you to focus your attention on your heart. And imagine that you're breathing in and out through your heart. Feel your breath moving in and out from your heart. God is revealed in the spiritual heart, our center. Here we find all our answers for the spiritual heart speaks only truth. Breathing quietly now, we say to ourselves, divine love and intelligence live in the center of my being. So if any of us is carrying an upset or worrying about something this morning or someone, let's just continue to breathe through the heart. And then let's take that upset and that worry and lay it on the altar of silence and stillness. Because in this space lies all the wisdom and direction we need. The silence is not empty. It's teeming with God's substance. It's the doorway to God mind. And so for a moment, let's just sit together in the silence. And finally, I'd like to complete this time prayer and meditation with this prayer sent me by my beloved teacher, E.J. Niles. In the center of my being, there is a power, a joyous, creative power. My recognition of this power causes it to act through me, as me. I now acknowledge it and say, come forth. And it speaks to me and it says, break through every obstruction with which time, space, and memory have surrounded you. Break through every pattern of I can't or I shouldn't, or what will happen if I do. Break free from your background, heredity, conditioning, and tradition. Joy in me. Come out and operate through me in creative ways of good. There is a joy at the center of my being. This joy I did not create, but it created me. This joy is my spiritual power. I now let it out, and it finds creative ways to heal. Reminds me that I am whole and beautiful. It takes me out of who I am not and into who and what I really am. And so it is. Amen.
I don't need to know where the wind blows, because God knows. And I don't need to know what the future holds, because God knows.